3 years later, they fired their Super Bowl winning head coach. They traded the highest paid QB in franchise history. And they traded down in the 2021 NFL Draft. What does it all mean now? Find out during the draft from the premier Philadelphia Eagles reporter, Derek Gunn. Watch, listen to Draft Takes with Derek Gunn across the JAKIB Media Network, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Look at this, right on time. As I continue to have whatever issues with my own camera, we get to see the Hall of Famer.
Look at that background, too.
You saved me, Ray. You saved me.
As Ray is. Look, you don't come on here without that Hall of Fame level background if you're going to deliver Hall of Fame content.
Look at it. There's Emmy Awards or something back there. I mean, this beats Adam Schefter's background with a stick.
Well, thank you, Harry. I appreciate that.
Great to have you.
Credit for it. This is all my wife's doing.
It's amazing. Well, at least it's not fake. Like we're all dealing with virtual backgrounds, right? Here. We're a bunch of phonies
and other stuff.
No, this is the real thing.
Well, Ray, you saved me, Ray, because they knew for a fact that I didn't call you. That I didn't try to get in contact with you. I mean, they were ready to hate to do it to me.
We were. First off.
For you, better than anything, you know that.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And look, today of all days, to have a couple of minutes with you we're grateful for it. So we appreciate you hopping on with us. And you look and sound fantastic. And it's always refreshing to get your point of view on a team that requires, I feel like, a routinely upkept point of view on this team.
I think that's probably true. I think that's how most people feel. But, I mean, every year when it comes to this day, we always say, oh, this is the biggest draft that they've had in years and years. I mean, we say it every year. But some years it's more true than others. But this is really big. I mean, they can't swing and miss this time. I mean, they've swung and missed for the better part of the last 7 years. They can't afford to do that again because they have like real-time needs like right now. And there are a lot of good players in this draft, but they have to position themselves properly to get them.
Well, in your view, Ray, what would a swing and miss constitute tonight if they were to miss?
Well, I really think they're in a precarious position. I don't think 12 is a good spot for them. I really don't, and that's why I'd be willing to bet you that Howie Roseman right now is on the phone trying to move up. Trying to get back into the top 10. Because at least in the way I look at the board and the talent on the board, I look at their two biggest needs and I see pretty much what everybody else sees. I see cornerback and I see wide receiver. They need defensive backs and they need playmakers. And you got some in this draft, but I really do think there's a chance if they sit at 12 that all the really good ones are going to be gone. I think that there are good receivers in this draft, but after the big three, I think the talent drops way off. And if you're sitting at 12, those three guys could very well be gone. And right now, it looks to me that they will be gone. And if you're thinking cornerback, Surtain is not making it to 12. No way. And I'm not sure Horn will either. So if you stay at 12, if you decide, okay, we made our move, we're going to stay at 12, 12 could come up and all of the guys that are value players at the two positions that you really need, they could be off the board. So people think, I've had so many people say, it's not a big deal. I mean, you're going from 6 to 12. No, it is a big deal. When you're a team like the Eagles and you have very specific needs, and the top players are in that bunch right there, and you could miss out on all of them, and worse yet, have two of them go to division opponents, go to the Dallas and the Giants right above you. That is really a nightmare scenario. And that's kind of where the Eagles are sitting right now. So right now, if you ask me what do I think is going to happen tonight, I think Howie's going to trade back into the top 10 to make sure he gets one of those guys.
Wow. Barrett's jumping in. We also are joined by John McMullen as the great Ray Didinger in the house. And before Barrett brings it back to the NFL, just we all have it's okay to admit it, John. We all have background envy with Ray right now.
Oh yeah, he's got his Emmys out there. I'm messing with this stupid green screen, trying to figure out I spend half my life fixing lights in my stinking room. Ray comes in with Emmys. Yeah, I mean, come on, Ray. Man.
That's what I say. Well, Ray, do you think they go with the safe bet, get off base with Andy Waddle and what he wants as far as, helping this team take to the next level, and they draft a defensive end or an offensive lineman? Like, if Slater's there and Pay is there, and they go with that safe bet, will they burn the city down, or will they eventually like that?
They won't burn the entire city down. Just 3 or 4 neighborhoods, I suspect. But yeah, I mean, that's nobody out there wants that. I mean, everybody pretty much has identified the needs as we have, and I think that that's what they are. I think they need a playmaker. I think they desperately need a playmaker. I mean, you're talking about a team last year that finished 31st in average yard per pass play. I mean, they just can't make a play with this current group. They got to go get if this year is really going to be at all about learning something about Jalen Hurts, then give him somebody to play with, And so you have that opportunity because there are some good receivers in this draft, but you got to be in a position to go get them. And we all know where they stand on defense right now. They have 1 cornerback. They have 1. And last time I looked, you need 2 to play in the NFL.
Right.
And so that's why, while if I had a choice between all the Bama guys, I would probably still go with Smith because I think he's that special a player. But I can't argue with people that say that Surtain addresses a greater immediate need because they got to find somebody else to play that other side of the field. But I think those are where the elite players are. You go below that, and now you're getting down into crapshoot country.
Well, you've rattled off a lot of scenarios of players of need for the Eagles that you think could be off the board by 12. So that tells me that you don't think as many as 4 or 5 quarterbacks are going before 12. What do you think about how many quarterbacks? Do you think it's going to be 3 and that's it before 12?
I've heard so many crazy things about Trey Lance. I mean, I've heard some people say he could go at 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard some people say that he might fall into the teens. But if there's so much talent there, somebody's going to love him. I mean, if he falls, he's not going to fall too far. And to me, Mac Jones is the real X factor here. I mean, everybody keeps talking about how much Kyle Shanahan loves him. He's got all the qualities that he's looking for in a quarterback: good decision maker, accurate passer. I look at the guy, and I've seen him play a ton because his Alabama play a ton this year. To me, he is not the 3rd best player in this draft. I mean, he's just not. Now, maybe Shanahan sees something in his skill set that's a perfect fit for his offense. Okay. But to me, it still seems, and I'm hearing as of this morning, still, he's going to be the number 3 pick. It seems like a bit of a reach to me. I don't think, I don't think he's that guy, but 1 and 2 are locks. Number 3 is going to be a quarterback. We just don't know quite which one. And then, I think Fields is too good a player to fall out of the top 10. Lance, to me, is a bit of the wild card. I mean, he could go top 10, and I think he probably will. But I've had other people say that he could fall lower, that the Eagles could actually have a shot at him at 12. You talk about the city burning down. If the Eagles draft another quarterback from North Dakota State, you might want to call the fire commission. You might want to have them on speed dial.
Fair enough. All right. I'm curious, outside of the obvious quarterback scenario that would lead this city or a lot of the people in the city to at least attempt to burn it down, what about the back end of the first round? It's a scenario, Ray, we've been throwing around where the Eagles stay put at 12. They address one need, but use the capital or some of the capital they have to move back into the first round later tonight. Is that a possibility? And if so, is there a name or two that maybe we should be looking at if that does come true?
I think it's possible. Yeah, I think it's possible. I wouldn't say likely, but I could see it. I could see it happening, depending on what they get with the first pick. Let's say they get the receiver with the first pick. I could see them wanting to try and trade up, maybe if the right cornerback is suddenly available late in the first round. Yeah, that could be a possibility. Because again, I'm thinking receiver and corner. And a guy that I think Barrett and I have even talked about that I like an awful lot is Greg Newsome from Northwestern. I think he's a real good player. I mean, I don't think that he's far removed from Horn Sertan. I mean, I think he's not that far below them. It bothers me that he's missed games. It's bothered me that he's every year at Northwestern he's missed 2 or 3 games. I worry about that a little bit, but boy, you look at the tape and it's good. I mean, he can, and he had a really hit it out of the park pro day where he ran faster than he ever ran. He interviewed really well, and you put that up with the tape that you have where you've seen him play against some good receivers. I like him a lot, and I don't think he's going to get picked. Maybe a surprise, but I think he's going to be there in the 20s, maybe the mid 20s. And if that were the case, and you already had your receiver, and now you're just looking for a corner that can be a plug and play guy, the idea of trading back into the late first round to maybe get a player like that to me makes some sense.
All right, we got John.
Lineage guy also.
Hold on, Barry. We got to break. Wrap the hour on the network. We're live on the stream. We're not breaking on the stream. JAKIB Media, YouTube, phillyvoice.com/themiddle. Go ahead.
I'm just saying he's a lineage guy also. You know, his pops got drafted when I got drafted back in 1995. Craig Newsome, yeah.
Right.
Hey, Ray, I jumped in late. Maybe you addressed this, but you're DeVonta Smith, you're like for him as a prospect, any concern over the size and the potential redundancy? I mean, obviously he's a lot better player than Jalen Reagor, but I look at both of those guys as Z's, as flankers, as off the ball. Can he play the X position? Can he play on the line of scrimmage? Can he get off press coverage in this league?
I believe he can. In fact, I think release is one of his great strengths. I mean, especially when Waddle went out this year, I mean, every team that they played concentrated everything they could to just try and stop Smith. They couldn't do it. And I've seen him get shoved out of bounds from lining up at the X. I mean, I've seen a few of those situations where he got physically tossed aside. But that's what coaches are for. You know, if you run into that situation, then you can just motion them. You can slot them. You can do a lot of different things with them. But the fact is, he runs incredible patterns. He's really smart, fiercely competitive, and he catches everything. You know, I mean, he doesn't drop the ball. And all you have to do is look at his history with that team. Caught the winning touchdown pass in one championship game. Comes back the next year, scores 3 touchdowns in the first half of the next championship game. The bigger the game, the greater the challenge, the better he plays. And would I like him to be 10 pounds heavier? Okay, you know, but I think every so often guys come along that are truly special players, and I think he's one of them. He's always in the right position. I've seen him take big hits and bounce right back up. I have no question of his toughness. He has no problem coming across the middle and catching balls in traffic. And he's more physical than you think. I mean, I've seen him break some tackles, but his ability to get separation and his ability to come out of a break at full speed, I mean, without missing a step, is very rare. I mean, Waddle will time faster and does time faster, but I would tell you in terms of how they play, how fast they play, to me, Smith and Waddle are very much the same player. And so, yeah, I mean, the 166-pound thing, I mean, that scared a lot of people. And you have to consider it and factor it in. But to me, if you look at his career, the level of competition they played, that he scored 48 touchdowns in 47 games playing that schedule, to me, I think the comparisons to Marvin Harrison are not a stretch. I mean, I think he's that kind of player. So if I had the shot to get him, John, he would be my number one. He's been my number one all year, and I really haven't changed off that.
Amazing.
You're listening to The Middle on the SportsMap Radio Network.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios. Here's Eitan Shander, Barrett Brooks, and Harry Mays.
I don't know if you caught that, and a lot of you probably did not, but Ray Didinger just hit that post beautifully to where he ended, and the very second in which he ended that thought, the imaging came and we're back on the radio. This is the first time he's been on the show. You want to know why he's got all these Emmys behind him, John McMullen? It's because he hits posts like that. If only Howie Roseman could hit a draft pick like Ray Diddy hits posts.
We always
have beautiful. And we lose 8 times.
Just like that. You still have my voice for some reason, but my face. I don't think many people are complaining that you can't see me, to be fair.
Well, hopefully we don't go through what we went through last year, Ray, where we're both scratching our head with both the first, second, and third pick that we had last year. So, I mean, we need something.
And we still are. A year later, we still are. I don't know. I mean, this is Howie's in a tough spot. You know, he really is. And if I were him, I would not like sitting at 12. I really, because this could go very badly for him. If the 3 Alabama guys are gone, and Surtain and Horn are both gone by the time you get to 12, and he's still sitting at 12, that is not a good place to be. You know, that is not a good place to be. That's why I really think that he's probably trying to trade up, whether it be 3-4 spots somewhere where he can get one of those guys. You know, and talking about the corners, you and I, Barrett, I mean, we've talked a lot about receiver versus corner. What is the greater need? Who's the better player? And while, you know, I am staunchly a Smith guy, I also recognize what Surtain is. He's really good. And I think the difference, I think there's a big gap between him and Horn, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there. Yeah, it is. Yep.
You know, I don't know how you feel exactly, but I know a lot of people view those two guys as like 1 and 1A, that like they're kind of the same guy. I don't see it that way. I mean, to me, Surtain is a much more complete player. He's a smarter player. He's a more consistent player. Look, Horn, if they wind up with Horn, okay. But he's a bit more developmental. He needs more coaching and more refinement. Surtain to me looks like an NFL player right now.
You know, I wonder, guys, we talked about this name and we've brought him up a little bit with John, but having Ray Diddy here and John McMullen as well, and in the conversations that the three of us have had, what happens at 12, Ray and John? But let's start here. What happens at 12? This is the scenario where you do have Horn, Waddle, or a Smith. Maybe you have both corners on the board, but you also have Rashawn Slater. And the Eagles go at 12 with the second best, we think, rated offensive lineman in this draft. How do Ray Diddy and John McMullen react to that? And then, more importantly, maybe, where the people who don't have the same things up here that you do, the faculty's working, right? How do the maniacs react to that?
Well, from my perspective, I said I take Slater in that type of instance. One thing I've always respected about how the Eagles do business is that they believe in building up front on both sides of the ball. I think that's right. It's not the sexiest pick, as Ray said. They might burn a couple neighborhoods down, especially if you go look past somebody like DeVonta Smith. It's not going to be very popular. But I think if you fast forward to 6-7 years, you know, Brandon Graham's a perfect example as a late bloomer turning into an all-time franchise great. You look at Lane Johnson as a number 4 overall pick. How did that work out? You know, but I do hear what Ray says, and this is not the best draft, especially at the top on either side of the football. A little better on the offensive side than the defensive side. My concern at cornerback, Ray, and I'll throw this to you. Last year, I thought Jeff Okudah was, you know, the best corner in the draft, as most people did. He ended up going number 3 overall to Detroit. I think he deserved to go number 3 overall as a prospect. It wasn't good. I think the legislation of the game makes it so difficult for cornerbacks to play in today's world. There's no such thing as a lockdown corner anymore. There's no Deion Sanders. So where's the value in the top 10? That's not an insult to Patrick Surtain or J.C. Horn. I just don't think the value is there because of the way the game has evolved.
Well, I think that it has changed. And to me, the premium, and NFL coaches and scouts will tell you this. If you're kind of on a scale, and you're weighing who is more impactful, a blue chip pass rusher or a blue chip corner, you would probably say the pass rusher because of the way the rules are written now. Once the ball gets out of the quarterback's hands, all the advantages go to the offense.
Yeah.
The only way you can play defense in the NFL the way it is today is if you got guys that can get to the quarterback, if you can get pressure on the quarterback. I mean, you don't have to look back any further than the Super Bowl. I mean, that game was won. I mean, Tom Brady won another Super Bowl. God bless him. Okay, adding another chapter to the legend. But what won that game was the pass rush on Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he's as dynamic a quarterback as there is in this league we've seen in a long time, and he couldn't make a play because they couldn't protect him. Pass rush is where it's at today. But there are some areas in this draft that are pretty strong. I would tell you the pass rusher is not one of them. I mean, we've had some years where there have been a lot of really good pass rushers, and you've kind of had your choice if you were in the top 10. Not true this year. And all you have to do is look at the top 10, look at everybody's mock drafts. I mean, you don't have anybody taking edge rushers in the top 10. And that's very rare in today's NFL, but that's the reality of this particular class. I mean, you got some guys who can probably play, but nobody that you look at and say, there are no Boses in this draft is kind of what I'm saying. I mean, you got some guys that'll get drafted high because the need is there, but I don't think you have the game-changing kind of player there at that position. Not this year, you don't.
Hey, Ray, I agree with you. It should be, cornerback or wide receiver and then cornerback with these first two picks. Let's just say the cornerback is who they end up getting at 12, or maybe they sneak in front of Dallas, to get Surtain or whomever. But then the wide receiver is up on Friday night. Who is the guy that you think might be in that 37-ish range that you would love to see as a fit for this Eagles team at wideout?
There are a few. I like Kadarius Toney from Florida. I like Terrence Marshall from LSU, and I like Rashad Bateman from Minnesota. Those to me are the next three. But I think the gap between the top three and those three is considerable. Last year everybody talked about it being the greatest wide receiver draft of ever, and it really was very good. And people try to make the comparison. Okay, this kind of is the same draft. It's not really. I think the space or the gap between the very top guys and the next group of guys is probably greater this year. But that would be the next three, and I think they're all good players. They're not as good as the top three, but they're all good players. And if you've addressed defensive back or pass rusher, if you've addressed defense earlier with your first pick, and you're looking wide receiver, those are probably your next three best guys on my board.
Hey, Ray, one from me on the wide receiver position, and Nick Sirianni, obviously his history, played the position in college, coached it at each of his stops. At what point does player development come into this? Because the Eagles have allocated a lot of assets over the past couple of years at the wide receiver position. They haven't gotten it right. I can't believe we're sitting here talking about a team that hasn't had a receiver with 600 yards in 2 consecutive years. At what point does development in getting Jalen Reagor, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, even Quez Watkins, John Hightower, in developing them as players take precedence over just keep going wide receiver, and after every draft hoping you get the lottery ticket?
Good question, John. I think that's very, very real question and a good question. I really like Hightower. When he came out last year, I know he's a very raw, needs a lot of work, but I think there's something there. Reagor to me was a head scratcher and remains so. I think Hightower could be developed into something. Watkins, I'm just not sure. But a lot of this does fall on the player development thing. And it kind of gets to a point that one of the real mysteries to me about this whole Eagles organization from the end of last season to where we are now is here's a team that basically swept out the coaching staff. Hardly anybody stayed. But the wide receiver coach stayed? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, how did that happen? I mean, this is a team that fired wide receiver coaches every year. I mean, it was like every year the wide receiver coach came and went. This year, I thought you had every reason in the world to fire this guy.
Right.
I mean, was there a more underachieving position on this team this year than wide receiver? And that's the position coach that comes back? I don't get that at all. Now, I know Sirianni's background as a player and as an assistant coach is receivers, and I suspect he'll be very hands-on with coaching these receivers. Well, good. I hope he is, and I hope he's good at it, because from what I saw, the wide receiver coach last year didn't do anything with these guys. I mean, you had Travis Fulgham, who for 5 weeks was one of the best receivers in football, and then fell off the face of the earth the second half of the season. I mean, where was that? You know, so I mean, it really puzzles me that Moorhead is still around. I mean, I think that, you know, you talk about player development, that's critical. I mean, drafting players and bringing players in, that's phase one. But phase two is, once they're in your building, is developing them and making them into better players than what they were. And you know, that's one of the things that's one of the areas where this team has fallen short. And to me, it never fell short more than it did last year. So they have to get better at that.
Ray, we're on our way out of here, but I'm just curious in the final minute, it's just a big picture question for you. Do you believe the Eagles are drafting or going into this draft with the belief that Jalen Hurts is their guy, or do you think that this year, it's as up and down as it may be, as short of a leash, a rope, whatever that Hurts may have, are they not drafting like they have a quarterback of the future?
Well, I think that he's the guy for this year, and then they're going to see what they've got, and that's how I would be approaching it. I saw enough from him at the end of last year that basically I want to see more. I mean, I saw him look really good in a couple games. I saw him look not so good, and I saw him look really bad. But that's fairly typical of a rookie quarterback. But I think this year is a year when you need to find out what he is, you know, so that this time next year, you know, do we need to go looking for that other quarterback, or do we have him here? But to do that evaluation properly and to do it with some degree of accuracy, you need to surround him with good players too, you know, and getting a really good wide receiver or a playmaker or two in that offense is a big part of it. You know, that's a big part of it. I mean, I know that the jury has come back on Carson Wentz. I mean, that, you know, I'm not going to sit here and try and open that door again. And I know the city is really down on that guy, and he was a bad mistake. And I keep hearing, he was never really that good, which is nonsense, but you're hearing people say that now. I'm telling you, a lot of what happened with him last year, you know, he didn't play great, but it wasn't all his fault. Okay. There's a lot of failure around him on the part of the guys on the field with him and the guys who were coaching him. And and you can't have Jalen Hurts step into that same situation next year and expect a different result. So the idea that, maybe they'll make a trade for a guy or they'll draft a quarterback, I don't really see that. I think it's Hurts for this year, and then let's see where we go from there.
That's amazing. Ray, we can't thank you enough for popping on, giving some
Appreciate you, Ray.
insight. John McMullen as well. Both of you guys have a fantastic day. Enjoy the night, and it's always great to see. You know, we see John a lot, twice a week, so we don't go deep into we miss you, but we miss you, except for Barrett because he gets to see you. Harry and I, we miss you, Ray.
Miss you guys too. I'll be seeing you around. Barrett, I'll be seeing you tonight.
See you tonight,
Thank you, Ray.
Awesome.
Thanks, John.
Enjoy the draft, everybody. We'll see you on Friday.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.